My name is Madeline Carter. I'm 33 years old. And for 7 years, I lived in a house that had my fingerprints hidden in every corner. Not metaphorically, literally. There was paint under the old baseboards from the first summer I spent repainting the living room by myself. There was a tiny scar on the kitchen counter from the night I dropped a screwdriver while installing cabinet handles at 1 a.m. There was a faint line near the hallway where I mismeasured the trim. Cursed for 20 minutes. And then fixed it anyway, because there was no one else coming to fix it for me. I bought that house as a foreclosure when I was 26. Everyone told me I was crazy. My mother said it looked like the kind of place people ran from in horror movies. My older sister, Jessica, said I should buy a condo, like a normal single woman with a steady job. Even my real estate agent asked me twice if I was sure, but I saw something in it. 3 bedrooms. A decent yard. A quiet neighborhood where people waved from their porches, but didn't ask too many questions. The roof needed work. The kitchen was outdated. The backyard fence leaned like it had given up on life. Still, when I stood in the empty living room that first day, with dust floating in the sunlight and the whole place smelling like old wood and rain, I thought, this is mine, not glamorous, not perfect, mine, for 2 years. I spent weekends and evenings fixing it. I learned how to patch drywall from videos. I refinished floors with borrowed equipment. I painted until my shoulders burned. Every improvement cost either money, sleep, or a piece of my patience. Last year, I paid it off completely. I remember staring at the final confirmation email on my laptop, my hand over my mouth. Not because I wanted to cry exactly, but because something inside me finally unclenched. No mortgage, no landlord, no one holding a key over my head, just me and the house I had earned. Then I met Evan Brooks. He was 34. Charming, in a relaxed, practiced way. We matched on a dating app, and his first message actually made me laugh, which was rare enough that I answered. He worked in digital marketing, dressed well without looking like he was trying too hard, and had this ability to make a room feel warmer when he walked into it. At first, he made everything feel easy. He remembered little things. My coffee order, the name of my childhood dog, the fact that I hated cilantro but pretended not to care when restaurants forgot. He brought flowers once. Not roses, but sunflowers. Because I'd mentioned my grandmother used to grow them. By 6 months, he had a toothbrush at my place. By 8 months, he was there more often than not. One night, we were eating takeout at my kitchen island when he sighed and pushed his phone toward me. "Look at this," he said. It was an apartment listing, a studio, nothing impressive. $1,800, I said. "For a box?" Evan replied. "A box with 1 window and a neighbor who probably plays drums." I laughed because he wanted me to laugh, but his expression stayed heavy. "My lease is up soon," he said. "Rent is getting insane. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do." That was the moment I should have simply said, "I'm sorry. That's stressful." Instead, I was in love, or close enough to love that I mistook generosity for trust. "You could move in here," I said. He looked up so quickly, it almost startled me. "Are you serious?" "Yeah," I said. "We're together all the time anyway." "You could save money? Put it towards something useful." His face changed, softened, brightened. "Maddie, that would be amazing." "Are you sure?" I should have noticed how fast the relief came. How little hesitation there was after the question. But I didn't. 2 weeks later, Evan moved in. At first, I liked it. I liked hearing someone else in the kitchen. I liked seeing his jacket on the hook by the door. I liked that the house felt less silent when I came home from work. He brought furniture, dishes, boxes of clothes, framed prints, candles, office equipment, and more shoes than any one man needed. He didn't pay rent. I didn't ask. He bought groceries sometimes, picked up dinner, paid for a few streaming subscriptions. I told myself, partnership didn't have to look like a spreadsheet. For the first month, it felt almost sweet, domestic, like we were practicing for marriage. Then the house started changing. Not all at once. That would have been easier to see. It started with a lamp moved from the living room to the guest room. Then my old leather chair disappeared into the corner because Evan said it killed the flow. Then, one Friday, I came home and found 3 of his friends sitting in my living room, drinking beer, laughing at a show on my television. Evan looked up from the couch. "Hey, Baba." I stood in the doorway with my work bag still on my shoulder. "Hey," I said slowly. I didn't know people were coming over. Oh, it was last minute. His friend Tyler lifted his beer. "Hope that's cool." I smiled because I was raised to be polite even when I was uncomfortable. Later, after they left, I said, "Can you just give me a heads up next time?" Evan frowned like I had asked for a background check. "Why?" "Because I live here." "So do I." "I know. But it's just courtesy." His face shifted. Not angry exactly. Wounded? Like I had injured him by having a preference. "You know," he said, "sometimes you get really controlling about this place." That word landed strangely. Controlling. I almost laughed because the request had been so small. A text. That was all. But Evan started using the word more often after that. Whenever I didn't agree, whenever I asked him not to move something, whenever I wanted to be consulted before a decision was made about the house I had bought, repaired, and paid off before I ever knew his name. When he wanted to repaint the living room, I said I liked the color. He said, "It feels outdated." When he wanted to replace my couch, I said the couch was fine. He said, "Fine isn't the same as good." When I came home and found my framed photos replaced with abstract prints he had ordered online, I stood in the hallway holding one of my own pictures like it belonged to someone dead. "Evan," I said, "you can't just take my things down without asking." He didn't even look embarrassed. I was improving the space. It didn't need improving without my permission. He sighed. "There it is again." "What?" That tone, like I'm a guest here. I stared at him. "You moved in 5 months ago. And I'm your fiancé." "Not yet." Technically, at that point, we had talked about marriage. Looked at rings once. Joked about wedding songs. But he hadn't proposed. Still. He used the word like a key. Like it unlocked rooms he hadn't earned. A month later, he did propose. Small restaurant. Candlelight. A ring I later learned he had financed. I said yes because, despite everything, part of me still believed the tension was just adjustment. 2 adults learning to share space. 2 lives trying to become one. But after the engagement, Ivan got bolder. He moved my bookshelf to the garage because he wanted a cleaner background for video calls. He cleared half my office closet for storage bins. Then, one evening, I came home and found my desk dismantled. My monitor was unplugged. My files were stacked in a cardboard box. My chair was shoved against the wall. Evan was standing in the middle of the room, measuring the window. "What happened in here?" I asked. He glanced over his shoulder. I'm turning this into my office. This is my office. You barely use it. I work from home 2 days a week. So do I? That's why we need to discuss it. He set the tape measure down. Maddie, I need a professional setup. You can use the guest room. The guest room doesn't have the wiring I installed in here. Then install it there. I remember the silence after that. The way my own house suddenly felt like a place where I had to apply for permission. Evan, I said carefully, you cannot keep making decisions about my house without talking to me. His expression hardened. Our house. I didn't answer fast enough. He smiled. But there was no warmth in it. Wow, he said. Good to know how you really see things. Last week was when everything finally cracked. I came home around 6 p.m. The sky outside was already dark. The kind of winter evening where porch lights make every house look lonelier. Evan was on the couch with his laptop open. Papers spread across the coffee table. He didn't greet me. We need to talk, he said. I set my bag down. Okay. About what? Fiancé. Something in my stomach tightened. He closed one folder and opened another, like he had prepared notes. I've been thinking about how we split things, he said. And honestly, it doesn't feel fair. What doesn't? I contribute here. Groceries. Utilities. Household stuff. But I'm not getting any equity. I sat across from him. Equity. Yes. Equity. I'm putting money into this household. But legally, I own none of it. You're not paying the mortgage. I said, there is no mortgage. And you're not paying rent? That's not the point. It's a pretty big point. He leaned back, frustrated. I live here. I help here. I've improved this place. You moved furniture and bought throw pillows. I made it feel like a home. I felt my face go still. It was already a home. To you, he said. Not to us. There it was again. That little word, us, used like a weapon. He rubbed his jaw and looked away. I just think, if we're getting married, what's yours should be ours. We're not married yet, but we will be, and even then, I said, keeping my voice calm. The house was mine, before the relationship. His eyes snapped back to mine. So you're already planning for divorce? No, I'm being realistic. That's cold. What's cold is acting like 5 months of living here gives you ownership of something I spent 7 years building. He shut the laptop harder than necessary. Then he said the sentence I would replay for days. This place is basically mine now anyway. I stared at him. What did you just say? You heard me. No. Evan. Say it again. His mouth tightened. This place is basically mine now. You should start paying me rent. For a moment, I honestly thought I had misunderstood. Not the words, but the world. Like reality had shifted 2 inches to the left. Rent, I said slowly. For my own house? Our house, he said. And if you want to act like some landlord protecting your precious property, maybe we should make it official. I take care of this place. I made it livable. I stood very still. The old me, the woman who painted walls alone at midnight, who learned plumbing from strangers on the internet, who signed every document herself, went quiet inside me. Not weak quiet, dangerous quiet. I looked at the man I had planned to marry and realized he had never looked at my house as a home we could share. He had looked at it as a prize he could absorb. All right, I said. Evan blinked. All right, what? I'll think about it. There's nothing to think about, I said. I replied. I'll think about it. Then, I walked to my office, the one I had reclaimed after he tried to take it, and closed the door. Inside the filing cabinet was a folder Evan had never cared enough to notice. The deed, the payoff records, the title documents, the renovation receipts, and beneath them, a draft of a prenuptial agreement my lawyer had prepared 3 months earlier. After I mentioned we were engaged, I had been waiting for the right time to bring it up. I didn't want Evan to feel like I didn't trust him. Now, standing alone in the room I had built for myself, I realized the problem was not that I trusted him too little, it was that I had trusted him far too long. And there was one more thing in that folder. Not paper. A list of dates and saved clips from the security cameras I had installed after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. Entryway. Garage. Living room. Common areas only. I had bought them for safety. I had no idea they had been quietly collecting the truth. That night, while Evan slept in my bedroom like a man, certain he had already won, I sat in the blue glow of my computer and opened the first file. His voice filled the room. Not the voice he used with me, the other one. The one that said, "Don't worry. I'm working on getting my name on everything." And just like that, the house felt cold again. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Evan slept beside me, breathing evenly. One arm stretched across the mattress as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't looked me in the eye and told me my house was basically his. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the sentence again. This place is basically mine now. The strange thing wasn't the anger. It was the disappointment. Anger is sharp. It burns hot and fast. Disappointment is heavier. It settles into your chest and stays there. Around 3 a.m, I got up, quietly left the bedroom, and returned to my office. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I opened the security camera archive and started reviewing footage. At first, I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Proof, maybe, or reassurance that I was overreacting. Instead, I found something worse. Confirmation. The first clip was from 6 weeks earlier. Evan was in the living room with 2 of his friends. They were drinking beer while watching a game. One of them laughed and asked, "So how's life in the fancy house?" Van grind, "Pretty good." "You gonna put a ring on it?" "I already did." The men laughed. Then one of them said, "Smart move. Nice house." Evan leaned back. "Yeah. Just gotta get my name on everything now." The room exploded with laughter. One friend raised his bottle. Future homeowner. Evan clinked bottles with him. I paused the video. My stomach twisted. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe. But then I opened another clip. This one was from 3 weeks later. His mother was visiting. They were standing in the kitchen. Evan was giving her a tour. "Look at this," he said proudly. His mother smiled. "It's beautiful." "I know." Then she asked the question, "Have you talked to her about the deed yet?" I froze. Evan laughed. "Working on it." His mother nodded approvingly. "Good." Then she added something that made my skin crawl. "You don't want to end up with nothing if things go wrong." Things go wrong. Not if the marriage failed. Not if love changed. Not if life happened. Just if things go wrong. Like my house was a contingency plan. Like I was a business opportunity. I watched the clip 3 times. Then I opened another, and another, and another. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Comment? Conversation. Jokes. Little moments that all pointed in the same direction. Not once did I hear Evan talk about building a future together. Everything revolved around ownership, access, control, entitlement, bedown. I had backed up every clip onto cloud storage. An external drive. and a USB stick. Then I called my attorney. His name was Daniel Reynolds. He had handled the house purchase years ago and several legal matters since. When I told his assistant I needed an appointment immediately, she squeezed me in Monday morning. The weekend passed in a strange fog. Evan behaved as if nothing had changed. Saturday morning, he came downstairs, carrying his coffee. "Want to go furniture shopping today?" I looked up from my laptop. "What for?" "The bedroom." "What's wrong with the bedroom?" He rolled his eyes. "The furniture is old. It's 4 years old." "It looks older?" "It works." He sighed dramatically. "Maddie, if we're going to get married, we should have things we both like." I folded my arms. "I like them." "Well, I don't." There was a challenge hidden beneath the words. A test. To see whether I'd surrender. Again, "I'm not replacing perfectly good furniture." His jaw tightened. "You're impossible." "No, I'm practical." He shook his head. "You always act like everything belongs to you." "Because it does." I thought, but I didn't say it. Instead, I asked, "Why are you so focused on replacing everything?" "Because I live here too." The familiar phrase. The familiar script. Then his expression changed. "Not much. Just enough. Not for long anyway." My eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" He shrugged. "Nothing." "No. Evan, what does it mean?" He looked away. "Once we're married, it'll be ours." There it was. Again. Not maybe, not hopefully, not if we both agree, just certainty. Like the outcome had already been decided. I watched him carefully. "Actually," I said, "property owned before marriage usually remains separate." His head snapped toward me. "Usually, unless ownership changes. And it will." The confidence in his voice surprised even him. For a split second, I saw panic flash across his face. He realized he had said too much, but the moment was already gone. I smiled faintly. "No, it won't." The rest of the day passed in icy silence. That night, he left around 5, going out with friends. "Okay." He returned after midnight. I was still awake, reading, waiting, watching. When he climbed into bed, I asked casually, "Have fun?" "Sure." "Where'd you go?" His body stiffened. "Why?" "Just asking." Tracking me now, I stared at the darkness. Interesting. A normal person answers the question. Someone hiding something attacks the question, "I'm not tracking you." Feels like it. I closed my book. "Good night, Evan." He turned away from me. Neither of us slept well. Monday morning arrived. I sat across from Daniel Reynolds in his office. His walls were lined with legal books and framed degrees. After listening to everything, he removed his glasses. "So let me make sure I understand this." I nodded. "Your fiancé moved into your fully paid-off house." "Yes. He contributes occasionally to groceries and utilities." "Correct." "He has no ownership interest." "Correct." "He has made no documented financial investment in the property." "Correct." "And now he's claiming the house is essentially his." That's the short version. Daniel stared at me for 2 seconds, then laughed. Not a polite laugh. A genuine laugh. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't laugh. But that's one of the most ridiculous claims I've heard this year." I almost smiled. "Almost. So I'm not crazy." "No." He leaned back. "Legally speaking, he has 0 ownership. Even if we marry, unless you voluntarily add him to the deed or intentionally convert the property into marital property." "No." A wave of relief washed through me. Not because I doubted the law, because I needed confirmation that reality still existed. That fact still mattered. Daniel tapped the folder. "The more concerning issue is his mindset. What do you mean? I've handled enough divorces to recognize patterns. I waited. He folded his hands. People who believe they're entitled to something usually become more aggressive when denied. The room felt suddenly colder. You think he'll escalate? I think you should prepare for that possibility. Then he slid another document toward me. The prenup, the one he had drafted months earlier. It looked different now. Heavier. More important. I strongly recommend this if you're still considering marriage. And if he refuses? Daniel's expression remained calm. Then you'll have your answer. I stared at the document. Maybe I already had. When I returned home that afternoon, Evan was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, phone beside him. He looked up immediately. Where were you? Interesting. No hello. No welcome home. Just a question. A few errands. What errands? I set my purse down. Things I needed to handle. His eyes narrowed. You're being secretive. I almost laughed. I'm being private. Partners don't keep secrets. The irony nearly took my breath away. I walked toward him slowly. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the security app, and pressed play. His own face appeared on the screen. His own voice. His own words. I'm working on getting my name on everything. The color drained from his face so quickly it looked painful. For 3 seconds. Neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, You've been recording me. I have security cameras. That's insane. They're in common areas. You spied on me. No. I set the phone on the table between us. You exposed yourself. His breathing became shallow. That's not what I meant. Then explain what you meant. I was joking. The conversation with your mother, too. Silence. His jaw clenched. I was talking. You were planning. No. Really. I opened another clip. His face appeared again. Future homeowner. Laughter. Bottle clinking. More laughter. The room went quiet. A dangerous kind of quiet. Evan stood up abruptly. This is unbelievable. Is it? You've been building a case against me. The accusation stunned me. Not because it was true. Because he genuinely believed it. Like the problem wasn't what he had done. The problem was that I knew you said those things. I didn't mean them. Then why did you say them? His mouth opened, then closed. No answer. Because there wasn't one. Not a truthful one. For the first time since I'd met him, I saw something crack. Not remorse. Not guilt. The mask. The charming, easygoing, understanding version of Evan Brooks began slipping. And underneath it was someone far more dangerous. Someone who viewed accountability as betrayal. Someone who believed exposure was worse than dishonesty. His eyes suddenly filled with tears. The timing was remarkable. Almost professional. Maddie, he whispered. I can't believe you'd do this. I stared at him. He was crying. But somehow I felt nothing. Not because I was heartless. Because I no longer trusted the performance. I can't believe you tried to take my house. The tears stopped immediately. Only for a second. But I noticed. And once you notice something like that, you can never unsee it. I'm going to my mother's, he said. I nodded. Okay. You don't care. I looked directly at him. I care that the man I planned to marry spent months talking about my property like it already belonged to him. His face hardened, then softened, then hardened again, like he couldn't decide which version of himself should appear. Finally, he grabbed his keys and left. The front door slammed behind him. The house fell silent. I stood alone in the kitchen. The same kitchen I had painted myself. The same house I had rescued. The same house someone else had almost convinced me no longer belonged entirely to me. For the first time in weeks, I could hear my own thoughts, and one of them refused to go away. If the cameras hadn't existed, how long would it have taken me to see the truth? Evan stayed at his mother's house for 3 days. 3 surprisingly peaceful days. I hadn't expected that. I thought I'd be devastated. I thought I'd spend every hour staring at my phone, waiting for a text, replaying memories, wondering how everything had fallen apart. Instead, I experienced something else. Quiet. The kind of quiet I hadn't realized I was missing. I woke up Saturday morning and walked into my kitchen without wondering whether something had been moved overnight. My coffee mugs were exactly where I left them. My dining room chairs were in the same places. No furniture catalogs sat on the counter. No conversations about upgrading things that weren't broken. The house felt familiar again. It felt like mine. That realization hurt more than I expected, because it meant I had slowly stopped feeling comfortable in my own home while Evan lived there. The thought followed me all weekend. Monday evening, my phone buzzed. "Evan, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long moment, then replied, "Sure." An hour later, he let himself in, using his key. When he walked into the living room, he looked different, less confident, less polished. His eyes were tired. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Hi," he said quietly. "Hi." He sat on the opposite end of the couch, leaving a noticeable gap between us. A week ago, that distance would have made me sad. Now it felt necessary. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then he exhaled. "I've been doing a lot of thinking." I nodded. "Okay. About us." I waited. "About the house." Another pause. "And?" He looked down at his hands. "I think I got caught up." "In what?" "The idea of building a future together." His voice sounded sincere. "At least partly. I moved in. We got engaged. Everything happened fast." I remained silent. He continued. "And I think somewhere along the way, I stopped respecting the fact that you built all of this before I arrived." His words surprised me, not because they were profound, because they were accurate. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't arguing. He wasn't deflecting. He wasn't calling me controlling. He was simply describing reality. I leaned back slightly. "That's fair." He nodded. "I know." The room felt quiet again. Then he looked at me. "Do you forgive me?" Such a simple question, such a complicated answer. Because forgiveness wasn't the problem anymore. Trust was. And trust doesn't magically return because someone apologizes. I don't know. The honesty seemed to sting him. His shoulders sagged. "What do you need from me?" I looked toward the coffee table, toward the folder waiting there, the folder I had placed before he arrived, without another word. I picked it up and slid it across the table. Evan frowned. "What is this?" "Open it." He did. The moment he saw the title page, his expression changed. Prenuptial agreement. The silence that followed felt endless. His eyes moved across the document, page after page, paragraph after paragraph. I watched every emotion pass through his face. Confusion, concern, discomfort, anger, fear. He finished reading and slowly lowered the papers. "This says everything you owned before marriage stays yours." "Correct." "The house?" "Yes." "The savings?" "Yes." "The investments?" "Yes." His jaw tightened. "And my debts stay mine." "Correct." "Everything stays separate." "Everything we bring into the marriage stays separate." He stared at me. The disappointment in his eyes was impossible to miss. Not disappointment about the relationship. Disappointment about the terms. That was the moment something clicked inside me, because a person who truly wanted me would have focused on us. Instead, his attention kept returning to assets, ownership, money, property. I can't believe this. I folded my hands calmly. "Why? You really think I take advantage of you?" The question nearly made me laugh. Not because it was funny, Because of how absurd it sounded after everything I'd seen. I think your actions created this situation. His eyes narrowed. So, you don't trust me? I held his gaze. Trust is earned. And I haven't earned it. No. The answer landed hard. I saw it. The flash of anger. The wounded pride. The resentment. It appeared for only a second, then disappeared. But I noticed, and once again, I couldn't unsee it. He set the papers down. So what happens now? I took a breath, then said the sentence I'd rehearsed dozens of times. If we're getting married. You signed the prenup. His expression froze. A long silence followed. Finally, he spoke. And if I don't, then we don't get married. The room became completely still. I could almost hear his heartbeat. You'd end our engagement over a piece of paper. It's not about the paper. Then what's it about? Boundaries. I leaned forward slightly. Respect. Another pause. Trust. His jaw clenched. This feels like an ultimatum. No. I shook my head. It's a choice. The distinction mattered. An ultimatum forces someone to surrender. A choice reveals who they are. Evan looked away. Toward the window. Toward the backyard. Toward the life he had imagined having. Then he quietly asked, "And if I need time, take time." His eyes returned to mine. But, while you're deciding. I hesitated, not because I doubted myself, because it hurt. You need to find another place to live. The words hung between us, heavy, permanent. For a moment, I thought he hadn't heard me. Then his face drained of color. You're kicking me out. No. I'm asking you to move out. Same thing. No? I kept my voice calm. You'll have 60 days. 60 days. Yes. His laugh sounded hollow. I can't believe this. Neither could I. A year earlier, we had been strangers. 6 months earlier, I had imagined marrying him. Now I was asking him to leave. Life changes faster than people admit, especially when truth gets involved. Evan stood, walked to the fireplace, turned back toward me. You know what's funny? What? You always talk about protecting yourself. I said nothing, but relationships require vulnerability. They require honesty first. The comment landed. I saw it, the brief flicker of guilt. Then it vanished. And just like that, the conversation ended. He left, shortly afterward. Not angry, not emotional, just quiet. That worried me more. Because loud people show you what they're thinking. Quiet people often don't. The next few weeks felt strange. We existed under the same roof, while living completely separate lives. Evan spent evenings scrolling apartment listings, making calls, scheduling viewings. Sometimes I heard him talking on the phone. Other times I heard him pacing. But neither of us discussed the prenup again. Not directly. The silence became its own conversation. Then one evening, about 2 weeks later, he walked into the kitchen while I was making dinner. I found a place. I looked up. Apartments. He nodded. 1 bedroom. How is it? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Smaller than this? Of course it was. Most places were. When do you move? Next Saturday. I stirred the pasta sauce. Okay. The simplicity of my answer seemed to bother him. You really don't care. I set down the spoon. That's not fair. His expression softened slightly. Then tell me. I thought about it. About the sleepless nights. The camera footage. The conversations. The lies. Then I answered honestly. I care. He waited. But I also think this is necessary. His shoulders dropped. For a moment, he looked genuinely sad. Maybe he was. People can be manipulative and still feel pain. The two aren't mutually exclusive. I thought we'd be planning a wedding right now. The comment caught me off guard, because I had thought that too. For months. I swallowed hard. So did I. Neither of us spoke after that. The following Saturday arrived. Moving day. His friend showed up around 9 in the morning. Boxes. Dapper. A rented truck. The atmosphere felt tense. Everyone clearly knew some version of the story. I stayed mostly in my office, giving them space, giving myself space. Occasionally, I heard voices downstairs, furniture moving, doors opening and closing, laughter that sounded forced. Hours passed. By late afternoon, most of his belongings were gone. The house already felt different, larger, lighter. Then there was a knock on my office door. I opened it. Evan stood there. "I'm taking the couch." I blinked. "The couch?" "Yeah. The living room couch." He nodded. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievably predictable. "No." His expression changed instantly. "What do you mean? No." "I mean no. I picked that couch. You helped choose it." "Same thing." "No." I folded my arms. "I bought it 3 years before you moved in." His face reddened. "Seriously? Seriously?" The anger I'd expected weeks ago finally surfaced. "You know what your problem is, Isaiah. Let me guess. Everything is yours. There it is." He pointed toward the living room. "The couch, the house, the furniture, everything. Because I paid for it." His jaw tightened. "You're impossible." "No." I met his stare calmly. "I'm consistent." For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then he laughed bitterly. A harsh sound, one filled with frustration. "Fine." He grabbed another box. "I'll buy my own couch." I nodded. "I think that's a good idea." The look he gave me then was complicated. Anger, regret, resentment, maybe even disappointment. Not because he was leaving, because things hadn't gone the way he expected. Then he walked away. An hour later, the truck pulled out of the driveway, and for the second time in my life, I stood alone in that house. The first time had felt exciting. This time felt different. Sera, Visa, and somewhere, deep down, despite everything, I couldn't shake one uncomfortable thought. What if he signs? What if he changes? What if this isn't actually the end? I didn't know the answer, but I knew one thing. The next move belonged to him. The first week after Evan moved out felt strange. Not painful. Not exactly. Just unfamiliar. For over half a year, another person had occupied space in my daily routines. There had been a second coffee mug in the dishwasher, a second toothbrush beside mine, another voice filling the silence after work. Then suddenly there wasn't. I expected loneliness. Instead, I kept noticing relief. Little moments, walking into the living room and finding everything exactly where I had left it, opening a cabinet and not discovering my belongings rearranged, coming home after work and not wondering whether I was about to argue over some new decision made without me. The relief bothered me, because relief wasn't supposed to be stronger than heartbreak, yet somehow it was. 2 months passed. The wedding planning stopped completely. Neither of us officially canceled anything. We simply stopped moving forward. The venue remained on hold. The guest list sat untouched. The florist never received another call. It was as if our engagement had been frozen in place, while both of us waited for the other person to decide what happened next. During those 2 months, Evan and I met only a handful of times, always in public, always brief. Coffee shops, restaurants, neutral territory. Places where neither of us could retreat behind walls. At first, the conversations felt hopeful. He'd ask how work was going. I'd ask how the apartment was. We'd talk about movies, current events, anything except the one topic sitting between us, the prenup. Eventually, I brought it up. Have you made a decision? His expression immediately tightened. I need more time. The answer never changed. More time. A week later. More time. 2 weeks later. More time. A month later. Still more time. At some point, I stopped believing he was thinking. He had already made his decision. He simply didn't want to say it aloud. Then, his mother called. Her name was Linda. And from the moment I saw her name appear on my phone, I knew the conversation wasn't going to be pleasant. Madeline, she said warmly. Too warmly. The kind of warmth people use when they're about to ask for something. Hello? Linda. I was hoping we could talk. I already knew. What about still? I agreed. 3 days later, we met at a small coffee shop downtown. She arrived early. I found her sitting near the window with 2 cups already waiting. Thank you for coming. I sat down. No problem. For a moment, she made small talk. The weather? Traffic. Ja, garden. Then, she got to the point. Evan is miserable. There it was. The opening move. I took a sip of coffee. I'm sorry to hear that. She frowned. Are you? Interesting question. I set down my cup. Yes. She studied me. You seem fine? I didn't say I was happy. Then why are you doing this? I almost laughed. Doing this? As if I had caused everything. As if I had been the one trying to claim someone else's property. I didn't create this situation. Linda Sahil. He made mistakes. Yes. He knows that. Good. But you're holding this prenup over his head. There it was, finally. The real reason for the meeting. I leaned back. The prenup isn't a punishment. Then what is it? A legal agreement. That benefits you. It protects both of us. Linda shook her head. Come on. Madeline. No. I held her gaze. Let's be honest. Her expression hardened slightly. I continued. The agreement says we both keep what we had before marriage. But you have more. There it was again. The argument that kept appearing. Not fairness. Not principle. Quantity. You have more. Therefore, you should give more. I felt something inside me settle. The final piece. The final realization. The issue had never been trust. It had never been partnership. It had never even been the house. The issue was entitlement. Because people who feel entitled never ask whether something belongs to them. They ask why it doesn't. Evan came into the relationship with less than I did. Linda said, That's true. And that doesn't bother you? No. She blinked. The answer surprised her. I continued. What bothers me is someone trying to take what isn't theirs. The table fell silent. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly said, You'd really throw away your relationship over a piece of paper. I smiled sadly. No. Her forehead creased. Then what are you throwing away? I looked out the window. People walking. Cars passing. Life continuing. Then I answered, a relationship where I have to constantly defend myself. Linda looked away. And for the first time since the conversation began, she didn't have a response. We finished our coffee shortly afterward. Neither of us mentioned the wedding again. A week later, I received a certified letter. The return address belonged to a law firm. I immediately knew it involved Evan. Still, I opened it. Halfway through reading, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. The letter demanded compensation for improvements made to the property during his residency. Improvements. I kept reading. Fourniture, arrangement. Interior design consultation. Decor enhancements. Organizational optimization. I had to read that last one twice. Organizational optimization. Apparently moving my belongings without permission, now qualified as a professional service. I called Daniel immediately. He asked me to bring the letter to his office. 20 minutes later, he finished reading it. then removed his glasses, then laughed. Hard. You're kidding. I wish. He shook his head. This is incredible. That's one word for it. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Do you know what I love most? What? He documented that he lived there for 5 months. I frowned. Okay. He grinned. Which means we can document 5 months of fair market rent. A slow smile spread across my face. Oh. Daniel tapped the letter. They want to play accounting. I nodded. We can play accounting? Within a week. A response went out. Professional. Polita. Thorough. The amount Evan requested for improvements was significantly lower than the estimated rental value of 5 months in my neighborhood. The claim disappeared almost immediately. No second letter. No lawsuit. Nothing. Which told me everything I needed to know. It had never been about principle. It had been about leverage. And when leverage failed, the argument vanished. 3 months later, I sat alone on my back porch, watching the sunset. The engagement ring remained in my bedroom dresser. Not because I was saving it, because I hadn't decided what to do with it. Sometimes I wondered about Evan, whether he missed me, whether he regretted everything, whether he understood what he'd destroyed. Other times, I didn't think about him at all. Those were the better days. One evening, Jessica came over for dinner. Halfway through the meal, she asked the question everyone else had avoided. Do you think you'll ever get back together? I considered it. Really considered it. Then shook my head. I don't know. She nodded. Fair answer. Because it was the truth. A small part of me still remembered the man who brought sunflowers. The man who made me laugh. The man I thought I was going to marry. But another part remembered the videos. The conversations. The assumptions. The entitlement. And that part was harder to ignore. Eventually, Jessica left. The house became quiet again. I walked through each room before bed. The living room. The kitchen. The hallway. The office. Every space held memories. Some good. Some painful. But all of them mine. I paused in the doorway of my office. The room where everything had changed. The room where I first opened those camera files. The room where I finally chose myself. For a long moment, I stood there thinking about a lesson I wished I had learned sooner. Love is not measured by what someone can gain from you. It is measured by what they are willing to build with you. A person who truly loves you doesn't look at your accomplishments and wonder how much belongs to them. They look at your accomplishments and ask how they can help create something new beside them. That was the difference. And once I understood that, everything else became simple. I wasn't happy about losing the relationship. Some losses never feel good. But I was at peace. And peace is worth protecting. Sometimes, even more than love.